What's up, guys? Welcome back to Greetings from Florida. I'm your host, Joe Turino, and on this week's episode, we're coming to the conclusion of our three-part series all about the town of Gibsonton, its history, and some of the amazing people and stories to come out of it. But before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you listen to this show, so that way you never miss an episode. And if you haven't already, please take a minute to rate and leave a short review, and please continue to share the show with everyone that you think may enjoy these stories. And if you're not sure how you can share the show with others, just go ahead and send them over to our website, www.florirdapod.com. This is where they can find direct links to the show on whatever podcast platform they prefer. The website is also the best way to get in contact with me if you have any questions about the show or if you have any suggestions on future episodes. This will also be the future home of the Florida blog, where I will be sharing shorter stories and info on all kinds of cool places that you should check out all over the state. It's also a place where you'll be able to find how to help with the preservation of some of the historic landmarks here in the state, and hopefully some more after that. The Florida Pod merch store will be launching very, very soon. Just waiting on a couple of designs that I'm working on to see if they look good. And once I get the okay, I'll be going ahead and opening it up to all of you. So stay tuned. I did share a sneak preview of one of the shirt designs over on our Instagram page, and I know that got a lot of positive feedback, so I'm hoping you'll like this one also. And I'll be releasing a limited edition Halloween design, so keep an eye out on the website and on our Instagram page at FloridaPod for updates. All right, so over the last two episodes, we've learned all about the history of Gibsonton, a.k.a. Gibtown, a.k.a. Showtown, USA, and like I said, about many of the wonderful people who called this small town home. These were stories of good, hardworking folks who were just looking for a place of their own where they could be accepted for who they were and create a positive life for themselves, no matter what they looked like, who or what they believed in, or who they loved. You know, real feel-good type of shit. But today's story is not that. In fact, today's story is a terrible story, if I'm going to be honest with you. There is no happy ending. There is no feel-good. It's a story full of anger, abuse, violence, vengeance, and cold-blooded murder. This is a story of a man who led a very tortured life and died a very violent death. He was considered to be a real monster by many, especially his own family. And it's not because of his appearance. And as you may have already guessed, it all takes place in Gibsonton, Florida. Let's get into this thing. Grady Franklin Stiles Jr. was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1937 and was the fourth child of Grady F. Stiles Sr. and his wife Edna. He was born with a deformity called ectrodactyly, which is a genetic condition in which a person's fingers and or toes are fused together. This condition is also referred to as split hand, split foot malformation, or SHFM, and is commonly known as lobster claw syndrome. According to Grady's father, the Stiles family has had a long history of ectrodactyly going back over 130 years. William Stiles was apparently the first in the family to display the condition in 1805. He was followed by Jacob Stiles, Alicia Stiles, and Grady Stiles Sr. So instead of viewing young Grady's condition as an impediment, the Stiles family turned it into profit as Grady Sr., who was already working as a sideshow attraction in a traveling carnival, billed as the Lobster Man, wasted no time in introducing Grady to the show life. Billing him as the Lobster Boy, Grady Stiles Jr. began working the freak show business at the tender age of 7, and he was an instant hit. Grady Jr. would begin his act with, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Lobster Boy. This condition is not caused by drugs or diseases. It runs in the family." Throughout his childhood, Stiles and his family toured with the carnival circuit, where young Grady Jr. quickly adapted to the sideshow lifestyle. The family spent the off-season in Gibsonton, Florida, among the other carnival workers. As a young man working the carnival circuit, he met 19-year-old Maria, or Mary Teresa Herzog, who had recently run away from an abusive home to join the carnival. Mary wasn't part of an act at the time. She worked as a regular staff member, as she was not born with any deformities, but she soon fell in love with Stiles, and in 1958, the two married. Together they had 2 children, Donna the first, and Kathy, who was born with ectrodactyly like her father. Grady decided to include his children in his act, just like his father did before him, and they began touring under the name The Lobster Family. Now, the Stiles family did very well working the carnival circuit. They made anywhere between $50,000 to $80,000 per season, and unlike a lot of freak show acts, they didn't have to subject themselves to anything more than curious stares. And while some of the spectators would acknowledge Lobster Boy with amazement, others only ridiculed and harassed him. Being center stage for a carnival freak show monetarily paid well for the Stileses, but it consequently filled Grady Jr. with pain and extreme resentment. He eventually began turning to alcohol as an answer to soothe his deep-seated anguish. Grady was known to become very violent when he drank. His neighbors testified to hearing frequent screams from the Stiles home in Gibsonton, and even though Grady's condition was so severe that he could not walk and was mostly confined to a wheelchair, he learned to use his hands and arms for locomotion, and as a result, he developed incredible upper body strength. Unfortunately, his wife and children became the targets of his abusive, belligerent assaults. Grady used his upper body strength to violently throw himself on the floor, and then would use his claw-like fingers as dangerous weapons to choke, beat, and slam his wife and children in the face. Skin and eyes were often targeted. During one violent episode, while Grady was in the midst of attacking his wife, his pregnant daughter Kathy attempted to intervene by rolling the wheelchair in between her parents. This act only infuriated her father even more. Grady turned toward Kathy and beat her so badly that she went into early labor. The baby did survive, but they found out that it was also born with ectrodactyly. And then, during another violent attack on his wife in 1973, he allegedly threw her to the ground, ripped her pantyhose, and used his claw-like hand to rip her IUD from within her body. What a fucking monster this guy is. After this attack, Mary Teresa decided that she had had enough and filed for divorce from Grady. Mary Teresa soon left, leaving the children to endure their father's wrath. She went on to marry the world's smallest man, Harry Glenn Newman, and they had one child together. Stiles took his children and moved to his hometown of Pittsburgh, where he later married a woman named Barbara Browning, and they together had his namesake, Grady Stiles III. Though he was still a mean drunk, Grady lived a relatively quiet life until 1978. At that point, he thrust himself back into the spotlight, but not in a good way. You see, Grady's oldest daughter, Donna, fell in love and wanted to marry a young man by the name of Jack Lane, but Grady greatly opposed. Donna was not concerned about whether or not her father approved. Removing herself from Grady's control was the main reason for her interest in marrying. She insisted that she would live with Jack with or without her father's consent, and as Grady's control over his family was his top priority, he was not about to give that up. Grady threatened Donna that he would kill Jack if she didn't let up. The exact details are unknown, but somehow, on the evening before the wedding, it was arranged for Jack to meet with Grady in person to discuss the marriage. Jack had insisted that he and Donna were going to marry with or without her father's permission, but it is assumed that Grady had given Donna and Jack some indication that he might actually approve of the marriage. But when Jack arrived to meet with Grady pulled his shotgun and shot the young man in the back 2 times, and he died in Donna's arms. She then looked up at her father, who just sat and looked at her with an evil smile and said, "I told you I would kill him." The trial, as you would expect, was a media circus. In court, Grady openly confessed to his crime, but claimed that he shot Jack in self-defense. His legal team played on his deformation and poor health, as by this time he had acquired liver cirrhosis due to his bottle of whiskey a day drinking habit, as well as emphysema from years of smoking 3 packs of cigarettes per day. The jury was manipulated into pitying Grady for his lifelong debilitation, and they were led to believe that it was because of his misfit role in society that led Grady to alcoholism and violence. Grady even faked tears of remorse. And on top of that, it was also pointed out that no jail can handle his disability, and to confine him to prison would be considered cruel and unusual punishment. And to this, the court realized that they really had no counter-argument. It was true that the prisons were not well equipped to deal with many disabilities, certainly not Stiles' incredibly rare one. So, in 1979, even with a final verdict of third-degree murder, the court was left with no choice but to let him off with a sentence of only 15 years probation. 15 years probation for cold-blooded murder. Insane. So following these events, Grady felt invincible. He returned home and continued his routine of drinking and violence towards his family that was said to be even more severe than it was before. He would even taunt them by saying, "I killed before and I got away with it. I can do it again." His second wife, Barbara, left him shortly after he returned home, leaving the children to once again suffer their father's rage. Now, in 1989, for a reason that, in my opinion, no one will ever understand, Grady's first wife, Mary Teresa, left her second husband, Harry, and returned to and remarried Grady on the premise that he was a new man who would stop drinking and change his ways. But Grady did not change anything. Surprise, surprise. He was back to his typical pattern of drinking and abuse after only 2 weeks, often threatening to kill his wife and his family. Mary reportedly endured being choked by him, and she even claimed that she woke up to him holding a knife to her throat. He also sexually abused her and once attempted to smother her with a pillow after she suggested getting a divorce again. By this point in 1992, Mary was terrified for her and for her family's safety. Following another altercation, it was recorded that she made the comment, "Something needs to be done," while speaking with her oldest teenage son, Harry Glenn Newman III, who she had during her marriage to Harry Glenn Newman, the world's smallest man. The boy was normal-sized, and he was described as round-faced and pudgy and was considered to be a little slow. Harry joined the family sideshow as the human blockhead, driving nails into his nostrils after his mother remarried Stiles, and while living with Stiles and his mother, became another witness to Grady's abuse. Mary gave Harry $1,500 cash to quote-unquote bring things to a beneficial conclusion. Feeling the need to protect his mother, Harry used the money to pay Chris Wyatt, a 17-year-old neighbor who was also a carnival worker, to kill Grady. And on the night of November 29th, 1992, Mary told Grady that she was going to go out for a bit to visit with some friends, so she and Harry left the trailer home. Chris Wyant, who was watching from the shadows, entered the home a few minutes later. Wyant had been in the Stiles home several times because he would play chess with Harry, so he knew the layout of the house. He crept down the hall, passing the kitchen, and stepped into the living room, where he found Grady sitting on a chair smoking a cigarette while watching television. Chris then raised his semi-automatic pistol and fired 3 shots into the back of Grady's skull from point-blank range. The Lobster Boy was dead, and his reign of terror over his family was over. He was 55 years old. Police soon began their investigation into Grady's murder, and Mary and Harry were brought in for questioning. Harry, who failed a lie detector test, quickly folded during the police interrogation and admitted everything that happened. He, his mother, and Chris Wyant were all arrested. And during the trial, not one of them denied that they had intended to kill Grady Stiles. Mary spoke at length about his abusive history. "My husband was going to kill my family," she told the court. "I believe that from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry this happened, but my family is safe now." Even their daughter Kathy testified against her father. But Mary received little sympathy from the jury and even less from neighbors around Gibsonton who, like the prosecutors, called the slaying a murder of convenience. Jeannie Tomaney, who we met in episode 1 of this series, was quoted as saying, "All she had to do was walk away. I don't have any legs or much of anything going for me, but if anybody gives me a hard time, you better know I'll be out of there." And Wayne Murray, a former Sideshow Barker, said, "She would have stood a better chance had she turned around and killed him herself." People can at least relate to that. For the murder of Grady Stiles, Chris Wyant was found guilty of second-degree murder and was sentenced to 27 years in prison. About 6 months later, Mary Teresa Stiles was found guilty of first-degree murder, but received the reduced charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and manslaughter with a firearm. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison. She unsuccessfully appealed her conviction and began to serve her sentence in February of 1997, and she was released in 2000. Harry Glenn Newman III, who was considered the mastermind behind the plot, was convicted of first-degree murder and received a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. He died while in prison in 2014. Wyant was released in 2009. And while his wife and stepson were being tried for his murder, Grady Stiles' body was laid to rest in the Showman section of the Sunset Memory Garden Cemetery in Tonodosasa, Florida. He was buried next to his father, Grady Stiles Sr. Unfortunately, he was so disliked within the community that he only had 10 people attend his funeral, and none of them were willing to be pallbearers. And even today, the Stiles family has carried on the family tradition and still performs on occasion. Kathy is married and has a daughter named Misty, who was born with ectrodactyly. And Kathy actually took up acting and has appeared in the HBO series Carnival and in the Tim Burton film Big Fish. Grady Stiles III appeared on an episode of the AMC series Freak Show back in 2017, where he spoke about life with his father as well as his father's murder, which he claims wasn't exactly as it was reported in court. According to Stiles III, and I'm quoting him here, "What actually happened with my mother and my dad had gotten in another fight, and as usual, my mother had made the comment that something needed to be done. My brother had overheard that and went to the neighbor kid and told him that something needed to be done. My brother thought that meant scaring him or beating him up or something to make him realize that he was going to lose his family. And a little while later, my dad was shot. And when asked if there was anything he wished that he could tell his father, he said, "Thank you for showing me who not to be, and maybe you can appreciate who I became because of that. You were a drunken bastard, but you were my dad." And that does it for our series on Gibsonton, Florida, and the remarkable people who live there. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts, and don't forget to rate and leave a review, as it really helps people find the show. Please visit www.flowweirdapod.com for show-related news and updates, as well as links to all episodes and social media, and coming soon, the Flow Weirda blog and merch page. You can also contact us via the website or at flowweirdapod@gmail.com if you have any questions about the show, or if you have any topics that you want to hear covered on a future episode. Thank you to Ernesto Paez and his band Modern Mimes for the awesome theme music for the show. Go visit their website, www.modernmimes.com, for links to everywhere that you can stream and purchase their music. It'll have links to their YouTube, so you can check out their music videos. And you can also look up tour dates and ticket information, band merch, and links to their social media. Go check out War Party Paranormal, and you could hit our website, www.warpartyparanormal.com. This is where you could find team member bios, links to our team's socials, dates and ticket information to our upcoming public ghost hunting events, and links to the War Party Paranormal radio show and the Haunted Files on Paraflix. Please contact us if you or someone you know are experiencing paranormal occurrences in your own home or business and need some help. We help people. That is what we do as a team. We primarily cover the state of Florida, but if you're outside of the state, reach out either way. We could probably help you find somebody that is a little closer to you that may be able to help. But before we sign off today, I just want to give a big shout out to all the little ones, the future weirdos of Florida, the weirdos in training, especially my godson and nephew Hunter, my nephew Mikey, my godson Austin, my little niece Mila, and a special shout out to another listener. She's 11 years old, will be 12 next month. Angie, thank you so much for listening. Angie has the coolest aunt in the world for allowing her to listen to this with her, and she explains all like the special things that an 11-year-old may not know. I mean, nowadays it's a little different, so they know damn near everything. But I want to give a shout out to little future weirdos. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. So we'll be back real soon with an all new episode of Greetings from Florida. But until then, stay weird, Florida. We'll see you next time.